everybody. Welcome back to an amazing, fun episode of Kicking It with KSCA. We hope that you have your shoes laced up because not only do we have one guest, we have two. And of course, we are also joined here by the Queen, Hannah Kimball. Mick, what's up, Hannah?
It was just a great day at the old school, and I have been so excited to hear about the Calverts. Mal has been talking them up, and I don't want to leave all this. I'll leave the surprises up to her, but I am very excited to see what these two have up their sleeves.
Yes, they are the dynamic duo, husband and wife, officer principal duo, Dr. Heather Calvert and John Calvert. Welcome on. We are so glad that you're here.
Thanks for having us.
Of
Appreciate
course, we love it. Okay, so tell us all the things. Heather, you are a principal. John, you wear many different hats. So tell us what you do, where you're from, and then a little bit about your cool backdrop back there.
I'm Heather Calvert and excited to be here. I've been an elementary principal for about 10 years now. I'm currently working in Kansas City, Kansas public schools. Love my school so much. Love the area and just strive every day to make a difference in the lives of the kids and make it a great place for staff to be.
And I'm John Calvert. Started my career, I guess, in law enforcement, which I weaseled my way into being the school resource officer up in Jackson County, Kansas for Royal Valley, Holton, and Jackson Heights school districts. Loved being an SRO. And then about 6 years ago, transitioned, started working for the Department of Education. They opened a brand new school safety unit. I am now the director, the head of the Safe and Secure Schools unit with the Kansas State Department of Education. And I just love being able to travel and get out to all 286 districts in the state of Kansas and talk with students, with staff, community members. I also talk with legislators and our state board.
So cool. So many different hats. And then you have a hat to add to that. And you are both new authors.
We are, as of 2 weeks ago, I think.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
That is
one thing
so
that we
cool.
realized, it's just been a passion of ours. It's grown from conversations at our dinner table. And we realized just how important the work is, and you don't need to spend a ton of money, to build better relationships with each other. But we have little time and there was no work done on it. And we started presenting and doing workshops. And somebody said, "You've got to write a book." And we were like, "Ugh, I don't know. That's a lot."
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
like a lot of work, a lot of pages, a lot
A
of time.
lot.
Yeah.
And then we started just kind of toying with it and looking for a publisher who might be interested. And then it came to be in about a 3-month time span, to be honest with you. So it's kind of a shock to us too.
That's amazing. You wrote a book in 3 months.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, we talked about all the time is that as adults, unfortunately, we live in our silos, especially in education. We live in our silos. And it's nobody's fault. We don't point fingers. But I entered the school as a school resource officer with zero training on how to deal with kids, how to work in a school. And we talk about it too. Heather, smartest woman I've ever met in my life. Dumbest thing she ever did was marry me and give me two babies. Hands down. But she has a bachelor's degree in education, a master's in curriculum and development, and a doctorate in educational leadership. And not 1 minute of one class was ever spent on school safety or how to interact with SROs or law enforcement. And in 2025 now, not only are law enforcement and educators and administrators supposed to work together, we're expected to work together flawlessly. And so that's really how this came to be, because I remember when I first started as an SRO, I would come home and at our dinner table, I'd go, "You educators are absolutely crazy." I responded to this, and this is what the educator told me. "You guys are off your rocker." And Heather would say, "Well, do you want to know why we do that?" And there's actual science behind what y'all do.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, it blew my mind. And still, to this day, Heather will come home and be like, "You SROs, you law enforcement, no clue."
You're never going to guess what happened. And he's
Right.
like, "Oh, I can guess what happened." And I'm like, "No, it's so weird."
And so we truly are we named our presentation merging our worlds, because that's really what it is. And really, we don't want there to be the same world, right? We need all the different viewpoints in our life. And so we felt it was just really, really important and timely that we put out there what we've learned through tough, tough conversations at our dinner table that sometimes spill over into me sleeping on the couch. It happens and it's okay. But there is realistically, there's nothing out there like this because we can't throw our hands up and go, that's fine. Agree to disagree. Right?
Right.
We're here. And no matter what, we're gonna wake up the next day and look at each other and say, I love you. And
there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it. Right. So we just felt it was real timely and we've given the presentation, we've done workshops, and the book was realistically the next step. But yes, it went very, very quickly. From the publisher saying go to, hey, it's out on Amazon now. We were like, okay.
Wow.
That is so cool. Yeah. So what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from writing this book and using all of the hats that you wear in this process?
For me, it's that the work is never done. Even because in our book, we tell a lot of stories that people can hopefully relate to. Just, every educator has had to interact with a child in need of care potentially. And, kids who just aren't, we have to make that report that we hate making. And when you do that, it's that emotional stance. And so we used a lot of the stories that we felt were, applicable everywhere. But even writing the book, it was still the work that I'm doing internally to not hold a grudge against the officers who report and to put into practice what I know in my brain and to get it into my heart to where I can be a better leader and a better support. And it's just the little things, and it's all free. Like recognizing that when police officers, whether they're SROs or not, when they come to your building, they're probably living in their car. So the last time they got to use a nice bathroom, or someone offered them a bottle of water, or they had access to a microwave to have something to eat, could have been when they left their house. And so just little things like pausing it if it's not an emergency and saying, hey, the staff bathroom's over here and there's some water in the fridge, or just those little things to start the relationship right. I still have to pause because we've been dealing with whatever the situation was for who knows how long during the day. And so a lot of times when somebody comes, we just want to jump right into, oh, great, you're here. Thanks so much. And pausing and trying to just continue to be reflective every day in my practice.
I love that. Kind of remembering that customer service, if you will.
Yes.
Sometimes I think everybody in education, we are go, 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 go. I mean, it's a fire everywhere, every day. And I love that you said you forget to take the pause, because I forget to do that too. But when we are able to, you can build those relationships because you're thinking, ooh, what does this person need right now? Instead of what do I need right now? Because I've been running like this the whole time. So I think that was an excellent point.
And I think the hardest thing for me writing the book was I love to get out and speak and present. A presenter voice does not translate into books. I would ramble for what felt like 4 or 5 pages, and then I'd reread it. I'm like, delete it all, and I'd have to start over. But the hardest chapter for me is we talk about who's in charge, and that still to this day has always been
Tony Danza. Who's the boss?
Right, yeah. Tony Danza, right? But we were trained in the academy. You show up to the scene and it's your scene. You now own it. Officer presence is even on the escalation chart, right? And so me being there, this is my scene. Well, I had to change that when I entered a school, because I would go into the school and it's mine. And the principal would say, no, we're in a school and I'm still going to
use you.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what to do. And I'm like, you're not, I have a badge. You're not telling me what to do. But it was a shift of who cares who's in charge? Let's work together. And it's a we, not a me. And when we can really continue to make that shift, and we tell stories in the book as well, but even when we started making that shift in one of my schools, the staff even picked up on that it wasn't a singular person, but it was what I loved is there's a poster out there that says one team linked for success. And that's what we are. When we're in a school, we're just a team and we have got to work together because we're all on the same side.
Yeah. That is so true. and working for that common goal. And even in a district from your preschool all the way up to your seniors.
Mm-hmm.
There's such different levels, but they all complete the picture.
Mm-hmm.
One experience.
That is so true. Okay, so we have to know too, John, you go out and speak for the state and you do amazing motivational presentations and different things. Heather, how about you? In your district, are you out there doing that as well? Are you sharing the good word? What's it look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we love to go out and present together. I've presented nationally a couple times with through ESA and different organizations, some other things that we do in our school, the work we've done to build the whole community back up, and how as a school we were the center of that work. So it's interesting because we'll present together, we'll do workshops together. What we're finding now is that people are booking us to do like a joint presentation and then also separate presentations in the same conference or the same time, which has been really fun for us to get to kind of work in tandem, but then also still have our own passions without just this work.
That's so cool. What do your kids think? They see you as mom and dad, but then they see you as an officer and a principal, and then they see you as this team.
Yeah, so we joke in the book, even we write about it, because like the opening line in the book is welcome to our dinner table, because that's really where the conversations happen. That's when we come together as a family. We have always prioritized, even through sports and competitive dance and all the things, having dinner together as a family every night in some way. And so that's where we touch base about our day. That is our touch point. And we joke about how many times we start talking and our kids will actually throw in their perspectives about drills and officers in the schools, and just kind of anything that we're messing around with, or the teacher's reaction to the drill, or how a teacher handled a situation, or how they felt when they had to clear the classroom and evacuate for a student. Mm-hmm. And it's been really interesting, and we have paused in those moments and realized we have to give that voice as well, and that makes us better at what we do, because their voice matters more than the educators. And so we work through that. They think it's fun. They love what we do. Our teenager now thinks she's halfway an expert, so we'll see.
Well, John, I have a question for you, which kind of feeds into what Heather was saying about your kids and like their perception of like when an officer comes into your building. For some kids, that's really scary. And then I've been to other buildings where the SRO is there and it is like their bro, right? They are like giving them knocks in the hallway. It's cool. So how do you move the needle from being scary officer man to like, hey, I am here for you? What are some tips you might have out there for SROs, or ways that you can bridge that relationship with counselors, teachers, things like that?
We have a whole chapter about it in our book.
Buy the book, read it, get back with me. No, I had a rule, and it's a rule that I follow. It's a rule that I make as a challenge to SROs, to educators, to anyone who works in a school. If it's not illegal, no one's going to get hurt or killed, and it doesn't violate policy, your answer is yes. Period. And that will push you out of your comfort zone. It will take you to places you never thought you would ever go. But the number one thing that in my opinion, the number one thing we can do to keep our school safe is to build and maintain positive relationships with our kids. Number one thing. And so if a kid comes up to me and says, "Hey, Officer John, we want you to do a rap video," which, by the way, I have 2 rap videos out there.
Do we have links that we can?
I was going to say, can we add that in the show notes?
Oh, absolutely.
Just YouTube it, Google it.
Yeah. But if they come up and say, "Hey, we wrote a part for you in the school play. Hey, we want you to play in the band. We want you to act whatever it is," and I say no, I'm a cop. Give me a break. And then all of a sudden they come back and they go, "Oh man, I see a school safety threat," or "My friend's really having a rough time. I need to take them to Officer John." "Oh no, I'm not going to go to Officer John. He said no. He wouldn't dance with us for the basketball team, right? No. We're going to take him to John because Officer John cares about us and he loves us and he's here to help." And so again, the rule is, if it's not illegal, no one's going to get hurt or killed, and it doesn't violate policy, our answer is yes.
And it seems like that puts that works when you have an SRO that's set to your building or one of 3 or 4 buildings. But I've never worked in a building, and I don't think either of you have either, where there is the same SRO that responds all the time. It is luck of the draw, and they get whoever can come. And so our job as educators is to make sure that our officers are invited to things as a department, because there's not that many of them that work in a school district typically. And so to invite them to start building relationships with staff by, hey, come to the potluck, come to the Christmas party, come, we're having a school assembly, for behavior. Would you come and just, we want to have fun with the kids a little bit and put you in that light. Do you want to come to our family event? Not because you're working it, but because we want you to be able to interact with the families. If we don't extend those invitations, they're not going to come because they don't know about it and they don't feel welcome. And so we have to go back and forth with that. We have to start asking and empower our teachers to ask when they have things going on in the classroom, like when you need a guest reader, did you think to invite them? How can I help you get connected? But then it's a tandem effort, because the officers then have to be willing to say, okay, I'll do that, even if I don't really want to.
And it's just full circle. That is so neat.
It really is
Yeah,
merging our worlds.
What a perfect title. That is so fun.
I like those examples too, because, we don't always think to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes something like, I've never thought to do that. I'll be perfectly honest, and now I'm thinking, oh, maybe when we have some events, we should be inviting them. And when they're just not scary events in the building,
Right.
that emergencies. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really solid tip, especially if there's admin listening too. That's a great way to bridge that gap. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we have to make sure, again, like elementary school is a great time for officers to get in, because that's when the relationship building starts. I always viewed, especially when I went into an elementary school, I needed to make sure that the first interaction that these kids had with law enforcement was hopefully a positive one. But it builds off of that, right? So then when they got into middle school, I was teaching them GREAT, which is DARE. But GREAT stands for Gang Resistance Education and Training. So I was in the classroom. So now they got to view me as somebody else other than somebody who just walks the hall. And then when I got to when they were in high school, who better to talk about the Bill of Rights or searches and seizures, freedom of speech, those kind of things? Why not have the SRO come in and just answer questions, right? I had a fantastic friend, a friendship built with this staff member, and he was the driver's ed instructor. Who better to talk to kids about laws? And what turned out to be, we were just spitballing things back and forth. He wanted me for an hour. Well, it turned out to be about a 3 or 4 hour thing, and we actually put every student through a mock car stop.
Oh my
So
God.
the first time they were pulled over wasn't the first
Break
time.
out.
What a smart
And
idea.
it was in a controlled environment with someone that they knew and they trusted, and knew that they weren't in any danger. They're not going to get arrested or get a ticket because it's all make believe. But now they've experienced it. Because, not saying that they're going to get pulled over, but realistically, the average American these days gets 2 citations in their lifetime. So why wouldn't we, if we have that resource?
Mallory was counting, I think.
I am counting. I'm a high achiever. Let's just say that.
We already knew that about you.
Another really cool idea, and I actually got this from our SRO in Topeka Public Schools, because Heather's right. With a large district, or when you're sharing people, you might not always get the same one. But we built a really good relationship, and he was at our feeder middle school. So he would come over and meet the 5th graders and say, hey, I'm going to see you at the middle school. This is going to be so great. And then they did career talks and said, if you are thinking about a job in law enforcement, these are all the different pathways. And then we had a student that was struggling with just different things. And I kind of partnered them up like big brother, little brother. Every Thursday he came over and played Guess Who. And that Guess Who time turned into basketball time. And then the mom wanted to come and meet the officer. Like, it was just so cool. And it's just bridging those worlds, merging those worlds. And it doesn't just stop at elementary school. He's going to be in middle school and high school as well. And he'll stop by and see him. It's so cool. And you guys are free 99. which is the best price.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we talk about that too, like uh, how scary, just like you were saying, like these fifth graders are going to a middle school with brand new teachers, brand new principals, students they might not know. Like it's a big, scary world. How amazing is it for the SRO to be the one to come in and take them and be that familiar face? Hey, here I am. It's not scary. I'm already here. We're good.
Right.
And things like that. But what we say too is law enforcement has to say yes. The educators and the administrators have to also back us up and give us those opportunities. So it really is a circle and a bounce back and forth.
Well, and Hannah, you made a good point too of starting to invite them into different events. How many times have you walked into an event, not you two, because you're a cop, but walking into an event and they're like, why are the cops here?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Yeah, they're just here hanging out, just chilling.
Had an assembly where they were going to just talk and everybody's freaking out because
Right.
why is the SRO here? What are they doing here? What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when that car is outside the building, it is, I mean, the phone calls are all, what happened? Is my kid okay? All the things. And we've got to flip that in the community as well, that they can just come and be a part of the student's day and it's okay.
It's okay.
Mhm.
And what a great thing to have.
It is. I agree. And just kind of make it not a big deal because it shouldn't be a big deal. Your SRO should be your buddy, but also there for a lot of safety things too. So in writing your book, I want to know what was the most fun part of it for the two of you. Do you have a chapter? Do you have a topic? Do you have something like this was the best part?
I mean, my favorite chapter is our different policies on abuse and neglect because I think it's the most meaningful one. My instructional coach at the building I work at, she got a copy of the book and she read it and she immediately was texting me and saying, I mean, I just never realized how different it is. And our emotions get so high and they get the best of us. And our emotional brain turns on and we want somebody to blame and we want to be mad. And who are we going to be mad at? The person who's standing in the way, which is the officer, but that's not fair. And and so just getting that chapter out to the world. And when we present, that's always the chapter or the topic when we speak about it that the audience reacts to most because everyone has such strong opinions about it. As educators, if the officer doesn't put the kid in police protective custody, then the stories we tell ourselves are that the officer doesn't care. They don't care about the kid. They don't care about us. They don't value what we're saying. I mean, we just tell these stories upon stories upon stories, and none of it's true. And so getting that perception to change is a huge part of mending the relationship. When writing though, we finished writing during Snowmageddon. What was really fun about that is that we actually had time to do nothing else. We couldn't go anywhere. There was nothing to do.
Our kids were tired of us. They didn't want to be
hang
around
out.
us anyway.
And so we both just sat in the office and were able to actually write together and bounce ideas off. And in the moment where normally we don't have the time to sit down in the same space and do that kind of work. So it was kind of an interesting turn of events that happened.
Yeah. And that was what mine was going to be, was sitting in the same room and just being able to write and talk to each other. My favorite chapter was the relationship chapter. I just have so many fond memories of the fun things that we were able to do. And again, I truly feel like that is why officers are in schools. That's our main purpose, is to go out there and be another adult that can build and maintain those positive relationships and never quit fighting for kids. Yeah, I tell SROs all the time. I was an SRO in the schools for 6 years. I arrested kids. It was the worst part of my job. I hated it. But the very next thing I did was go out and fight for them and try and talk with the attorneys and figure out different ways that we could handle the situation, because they are kids. And they're supposed to make mistakes, and sometimes they do, and there's consequences, but how can we better them and start rebuilding that relationship? Because again, as the adult, it's on me to rebuild a damaged relationship. It's not on the kid. They're a kid. They're going to be a kid. And I even call 17 and 18-year-old kids. That's a lie. I see my former kiddos now who are like 27, 28. They have kids of their own. I'm like, oh, look, it's my kiddo.
I love that.
We'll be out and my kids joke all the time. We can't go anywhere without me bumping into somebody that I know. And so like I'll go over and talk to somebody, or they'll come over, and my son said the last time, he was like, Which school was that one from, Dad? It's like, yeah, it was one of my kids. We're good. Don't worry about it.
That's so cool. You know, growing up in Holton, we didn't have an SRO. If we did, don't know who it was. However, I do remember the gentleman that taught us Dare.
Yeah.
And then there's a picture of me in my little Dare shirt shaking when I graduated. That was so fun. And I think, too, just another person in their corner.
Yep.
We have our teachers, we have our counselors, social workers, principals, but then you have somebody that's not necessarily in education in their corner, which is so cool.
Yep.
Okay, so John, with your state job, you also put on this fantastic conference in the spring. Tell us about that.
So this year, we just signed contracts. We're ready to go. It's we're getting our presenters and our call for vendors are out there right now, but it'll be May 7th and 8th. We're going to be in Manhattan, Kansas.
Your favorite space.
Whoop, whoop.
Where?
Yeah.
Manhattan, home of, I think he was a former quarterback there who's now a national champion. Shout out Muhammad, good guy. But we're going to be there for a day and a half. We are super excited. We are closing keynote. Hopefully, this will change in the next month and a half. But right now, he is the voice of your back-to-back Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champions. Let's go. Mitch Holtis.
Hey,
that is so cool.
Mitchie, baby. I love it.
Mitchie.
I love that. One of the things I really do just appreciate about our conference is these are Kansas people doing Kansas things. So often when you go to conferences, it's this national level, hey, this is what's working nationwide. And you go, well, that doesn't work for me because we have all of these things. This is stuff that's going on around the state of Kansas that can be easily adapted to just about anywhere. And then you have that time to actually come together and talk after the conference, after a session, because they're here. Yeah. And so it's not about, what's going on in Colorado or what's going on in Florida. This is what's up in Kansas, and this is working. And building those connections and those relationships again, just at the conference. It's been a fantastic conference. It's $75 to register. The registration fee has been a $75. I will not charge more than that for as long as I can help it.
For our listeners, what's the name of it again?
It is the Safe and Supportive Schools Conference in Manhattan, Kansas, awesome. May 7th and 8th. Our hope is that you take some really, really great ideas back. You have the whole summer to create plans and teams to implement those and have them ready for the next school year.
And I think, as an educator, when you hear the name, like I would glaze over that and be like, oh, that's clearly what the officers are going to go to, or the superintendent or somebody else. But I really do empower educators to go, counselors, social workers, principals, teacher leaders, everybody. The sessions are not just vendors talking about things you have to spend money on, for your schools, or talking about programs to implement like Alice, or, that's not what it is. And so it's really just, people talk, James Moffett, people talking about how do we create better, safer schools that's free? How do we learn from each other? What's that work look like and what's been working across the state? So it's to everybody. It's not just because as an educator brain, you're like, oh no.
I mean, we have several different. The reason it's safe and supportive is because we have that mental health piece, which is so important. You can't have a safe school without addressing mental health. Period.
Thank you. Say it louder for the people.
I was going to say that one more time.
You can't have a safe school without addressing mental health. It's such a huge need. It was a huge need pre-pandemic. We're seeing it now, and it's been thrust to the forefront after the pandemic. But we have mental health. We'll have IT people there. So if you want to see what's going on, bring your IT people. We'll have safety things going on there as well. Like this conference, one of the things that I took being an SRO, Heather didn't make me go to a conference one time, but I went to an educator conference and I went, this is not for me.
We went to Safe and Civil Schools.
Yeah.
With Randy.
The Springs. And so we went, and I remember like the very first thing I thought of was, okay, I walk in, There's no free coffee. There's no donuts. Like, it's a cop conference. Where's my coffee at least? No. We went and sat down. It was a 4 hour block. And I remember about 45 minutes in, I text Heather, we were in different sessions. I was like, when's the break? She's like, no, if you have to go, you just go, but it's a 4 hour block. You're there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But the setup was so different, but I learned so much. Like, why is absenteeism important? Why do we care about chronic kids who are chronically absent? Well, that was never anything that was on my radar. Well, let me tell you, after I attended a teacher conference, that was on my radar, right? So again, when we talk about merging our worlds, why aren't educators going to law enforcement conferences, and why aren't law enforcement going to educator conferences? And so again, just like Heather was saying, invite them. Law enforcement, invite our educators. Educators, invite your law enforcement to these conferences, because we're going to hear things that will change our world.
Well, John, I would say, as I'd never been to the Safe and Supportive Schools conference until last year, and Mallory and I had several conversations about how neat it was to have all these different roles in one space, because you have admin, you have SROs, you have social workers, you have counselors, you have teachers, you have tech people, you have coaches. I mean, it was really neat. And the ideas that we were able to take away were very different from from when we just go to a counseling conference. Counseling conferences are awesome, but social workers have really cool ideas too, right? So I was able to connect with Meg Baldwin, and she had all these really neat ideas of ways to help regulate kids. And that was the first time I had ever heard of a regulation coach. I didn't even know that schools had these. And I thought that is so neat. And we went to one with somebody who was an SRO, just talking about different crises and drills and things that we need to think about and why we do the things that we do. And I thought, this is just great perspectives. Like, hearing all of these different perspectives helps me understand schools as a whole. Like, I was able to see the vision clearer, I think, so I appreciate that it's open to everybody and that a lot of different people come. It's really cool.
We've had a lot of conversations, like Hannah said, and that just makes your circle even bigger, your connections even bigger. We both presented at that, but we also got to attend sessions, and I've made so many cool connections because of that. And we've met people and are going to present for them and then keynote for this person. It's so cool. And you learn so many cool things along the way. Well, so no matter what your job is in the school, go to different ones. The counselors, we welcome everybody, of course. But Hannah also goes all the time to IT conferences and hangs out with them. It is so cool.
Well, and I will say it's a great place. Like, if you're a school counselor and you're thinking about it, it's a great place to advocate, because you are going to have all kinds of different people in the room with those different perspectives. And it's a great place for you to say, hey, here's what I do and here's why. Another great time to say, as we've said a million times on this show, we are crockpots and not microwaves. Like, it's not going to happen overnight, right? So you have to think about it in that perspective too, I think.
Right. And we talk about it all the time too. Like, again, we've got to stop fighting each other.
Yeah.
We are all on the same side, and it's time for us to then fight the problem. So don't fight each other, fight the problem. And what better way to gather the people than at conferences like this, where you literally will get a wide variety of everyone.
Love that. So then, how do people find your book? How do they find you?
So our book is on Amazon, which is crazy. It was one of my life goals, so check that box. And then we were guided at a conference we went to speak at, I think about a year ago, and they were like, you just have to get a website. Like, you have to make an LLC, you have to get a website so people can find you, and they're not trying to find you personally. And so we created a website, calvertenterprises.com, super easy. And so you can go on the website. We have links to all of our presentations and contact info. There's links to all of our presentations and kind of just overviews of all of that. It's the easiest way. Or Facebook
and Twitter.
Calvert Enterprises.
You guys say that really well together. Do that again.
It's like we rehearsed.
I don't think we could do it again, but
that's 15 years of marriage right there.
I love it. You all, thank you so much for being with us. Such a wealth of knowledge. We could talk all day long. How cool. But we always end with a fun question. Okay. So if somebody gave you a $10 bill, each of you, so John, you get one, Heather, you get one, what would you do with it? Would you spend it? Would you go get a coffee? Would you buy a lottery ticket? Would you save it? $10. What would you do with
I
it?
can tell you what he would do, and he can probably tell you what
Okay, let's do that. That's a fun one.
Let's do that.
That would be fun. Yeah. What would I do?
So John's favorite place in the world is the bank. He loves the bank. I literally got a check in the mail today for $2.44 from some claim somewhere, and he was like, "I get to go to the bank tomorrow." So he would go to the
I'm
bank.
going to the bank. Love it.
That is hysterical. So you're not a mobile deposit guy.
Oh
No.
John's a relationship guy, Mallory. He wants to go
He
talk
wants
to
to go
Keller.
to the bank.
Like, he's got to get there. There's people.
Oh, no way.
His best day ever is when he gets to go to the bank. So
Okay,
And-
but is it for the popcorn? Is it for the snacks? Is it for talking to people?
It's talking to people and coffee.
we joke his retirement plan is he's going to go to a different bank every morning. Like he lines up at the bank like I go Black Friday shopping. Like no lie. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to be 5 minutes early at the bank. They're going to open."
Get to talk to all the old people who are there with me. Like, who doesn't love it? Everybody's happy. We're all depositing money. We're getting some money. Like, it's a great.
That is hysterical.
So that's what he would do with his $10. He would go to the bank.
It's a fantastic time.
I love that.
Heather would spend it immediately. Now there are a couple places that she would go. It all just kind of depends where she's at. Her first move would probably be to Target. Or if she was in the mood, she'd go to Sonic and she'd have to get her Sonic drink. She's not a big Starbucks person, but definitely a Sonic type person, or she would go to Target, and whatever she bought, we don't need. She would
Target tells you what you need, okay?
Yeah, exactly. That would actually be the first thing I would probably do with my $10, to just hand it over to her, right? Like, this is my bank. But she would, and joking aside, and I'll try not to get emotional because I am the emotional one. In all honesty, she would take that $10 and she would buy drinks or something for her staff.
Oh,
She would.
it's a good leader right there.
She would not spend it on her. She would spend it on our daughter. She would spend it on her staff. She would spend it on the dogs, somebody else. And that's really why I love Heather. She just has such a big heart and cares about everybody. But she wouldn't go to the bank.
I would not go to the bank.
That is a me thing.
I love it. Okay, Heather, is he right?
Oh yeah.
Sonic. Okay, love
I
it.
knew we could answer for each other.
I was going to say, that's so cool.
That's a superpower right there.
I was going to say, that is merging your worlds right there.
That's
That's goals. I love it. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you for all that you do for students, staff, all the school districts. You guys, powerhouse. We appreciate you. Absolutely. Listeners, thank you all so much. We love kicking it with you. And we are so happy that you kick it with us. Everybody have a great one and be safe.